And I am thrilled to be here with the Boys and Girls Club and Danielle Belsky and Mikayla Kleifgen. Did I do it?
Kleifgen.
Kleifgen.
I like
Kleiffish though. That's fun.
There we go. Kleifgen, which I know you, right?
Yes.
And all of a sudden we were having this moment earlier, like, oh my gosh, what if I pronounce her name wrong? And then look what I do. Okay. So now that we're all warmed up, I want to start by thanking our sponsors. So this is really made possible by our philanthropy champions, Mid-State Technical College, Century Insurance, Delta Dental of Wisconsin, and the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, as well as all of the donors who contribute to our endowment, which is called the Keystone Fund. So we're very grateful to all of you, and we're very excited to get started today. We are going to talk about the Boys and Girls Club endowments here at the Community Foundation. And one of my favorite parts of Community Lunch Hour, or now Voices of Impact, is also just starting out by getting to know both of you and like sharing your story. So Danielle, why don't you go ahead and go first, and you can pick up the mic right there. Oh, am I not? I wasn't on the mic. Was that good? Okay. We'll start now. Okay. And tell us about yourself, Danielle.
I was like, I'll just put it in front of you. So I'm Danielle Belsky. I'm the CEO for the Boys and Girls Club Portage County. I've been with the organization for 16 years. I started in 2009, which I thought it was going to be a college job. But it quickly grew into a passion and a place where I knew I could see the impact that we were making on a day-to-day. So it wasn't until 2024 is when I stepped into the CEO role and been go-getting her since then, working hard. So
go for it. Okay, I'm Mikayla Kleifgen. I'm the Director of Resource Development and Marketing for the Boys and Girls Club of Portage County. I've been with the club for almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years in May. And I started as an intern. It was a full-time internship that turned into a full-time position and have grown within the club ever since.
I think everyone I hear who has had a connection to the club started somehow as an intern. We often hear from our shared board member, Sam Dinga, who also has that story.
Yes.
It's just, I love an organization that just brings people in and never lets them go. It's very awesome. So Danielle, why don't you give us a picture of what the club is like today, like the kids that are coming in, the sites you have around the county?
Yes, happy to do so. So our organization is actually a really young organization when you look at it. We started in 2002, growing from one club site to now 12 across Portage County, and just expanded into the Marshfield community. So we're very excited about that. But when first question everyone asks is like, what is the Boys and Girls Club, right? It's that safe out of school time place where kids can go, because we know whether it's a two-parent household, single parent, foster care, kids need a place to go after school, a safe, secure space that they can go home and they're not going to go right in front of their tablets, right? We've really been focusing in the last handful of years on making it sure that the club is meeting the whole child, not only from physical and academic side of it, but also mental health and social and emotional learning from that side of it. So a lot of key partnerships that we've been developing through the years. And then one other part is we have our traditional programming, which I've really talked about. But there is another part many people don't know, which is our GPS programming, which is our guided pathways to success. And so these are court-ordered youth that are referred to our program. So many don't know about it because you have to be referred to that program. But that has been started since 2007 under the leadership of J.R. Wynn. And he's grown tremendously and grown that program into serving so many kids each year that are referred, whether it's through the court system, the school system, counselors. So little taste of the Boys and Girls Club from our traditional out of school time programming, and then our also at-risk youth programming.
Thanks. And my heart just always gets so warm whenever I start hearing about the club, because it's meant so much to my family. All three of our boys went to the club, and we still talk about the club today. And just to see all of that expansion and all of how, especially this club in Portage County and now expanding into Marshfield, really meeting the needs of kids and families. Like when you talk about the court ordered, and also seeing firsthand from a previous job what that program, how it really just makes a difference. And it's just so cool to see the change that happens from those young people who get to experience that program. Can you tell us a little bit more about like just the change over the years and what's evolved for kids and families?
Yeah, so, I think what you're getting at is we've grown tremendously fast from one club site to now 12. That's really been, the growth has been meeting that community need, as you mentioned. Each time that we have been approached, whether it was in the Rochville community or the Marshfield community, even Almond Bancroft, there's always been a community need. And it's usually the school or parent approaching us. And we just have big hearts where we have a hard time saying no to it. And we quickly are flexible in trying to figure out, okay, how do we sustain this programming? Amherst is another great example where it was in 2022, just after COVID, when the school district approached us and said, how do we get a club site during the summertime? They have their own out of school time program during the school year, but summer, there isn't anything. Right now, we're serving 70 kids at that program each summer. And this past summer was one that the sustainability was a little uneasy on that side, but we knew that all of those families needed it. And I think that's what has been so great with our organization is because we pivot. Mm-hmm. We meet the families where they're at, we meet the kids where they're at, and we just can't say no to kids. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Mikayla.
Our donors have just been wonderful in helping us make sure we can meet those needs and be responsive.
That's great. And that's exactly why we're here, right? We're talking about donor impact. And actually, it's at a point along the way, your board decided to partner with the Community Foundation and open 2 endowments. Mm-hmm. And so before we get too much further into the story, and also I just want to make sure everybody in the audience knows, if you have a question, raise your hand, both online or in the room, or just come up and sit in this chair next to Mikayla and join us at the table. But let's talk a little bit about the 2 funds.
Yes, so you will see on your screen right now or in front of me, 2 of our endowment funds, and one of which is an agency fund that we started in 2022 by our board of directors. We were working closely with a donor, friend of the club that wanted to donate, but how do we make this continued giving for generations to come? And when our board of directors really came forth and figured out, okay, where do we want to establish this endowment? How do we go about it? There were some really great things that the reason we chose the Community Foundation is, one is because, let's be honest, managing the funds. You guys are doing a great job. And it's something that you are always having a pulse check on. And I always appreciate because we trust you guys. We trust you and our board trusted in you. And so when establishing that was something really key, is also supporting other local nonprofits. The Community Foundation is always there to support when needed. And I think another big part was that agency fund is we wanted that flexibility of having that support when needed. Through the years, we've talked about our club growing. It's because we're responsive as an organization, and that's one of our values. And so when our board of directors really wanted to figure out how do we make this sustainable for generations to come, so the legacy can last, that was where that agency fund. So we have more direct ownership and we put funds into that. The other one that you see in front of you is our traditional endowment, which was started in 2012. And this is really another pathway for other donors who are able to give through the Community Foundation directly to our organization. And so we can gain a percentage or of that on an annual basis. It's something that I think is very important as an organization. I think it's gotten our name out too with donors. And that's the one thing I would probably distinguish with our agency fund. That is something that is really managed by us as an organization. When donors approach us individually as an organization, that's how we can help that. But then also there's the endowment fund, that's through the Community Foundation, where that is, we've got a lot of success, a lot of outreach that has come from that, which has been really amazing. And it's because of your support.
Thank you, Danielle. That means a lot. And you know, it's also just, it's not just the trust in our team, it's the trust in our investment committee, which is, I will proudly always say we have the best investment committee in the community. And our board and our investment managers. So really it means a lot. Thank you for that. And we take it seriously. You know, we're watching it every day. So just to kind of summarize, the organizational endowment is really when donors come directly to the foundation. We're going to tell you some fun stories about that. And the agency fund is when a donor gives to the agency, and then the agency decides on an investment strategy. So we'll revisit this visual a little later as we continue. So Mikayla, your leadership sort of at the front lines of fundraising and working with donors, can you tell us how the community really supports the club?
Yeah, we've been really lucky to have very consistent donors over our 24 years of existence. We this last year ran some reports within our system, and we were excited to see that over 647 of our donors have supported the club for over 5 years. 235 donors have supported for over 10 years. 85 donors have supported for over 15 years, and 30 individuals have been giving for the 24 years that we've been in existence. So we have some really great longevity with our donors and people who believe in the Boys and Girls Club and continue to stick with us and trust us and trust that we're making sure we do whatever it takes for our Boys and Girls Club kids.
That's awesome. And you just, you know, understanding your data really helps understand where there's going to be opportunity for legacy gifts, which is really at the heart often of when endowments really, we see endowments really making a big leap, a shift. You know, many of those, I bet some of those are really small donors along the way, right? And then we will see them bloom into a legacy that you may know about, we might not know about. So let's talk about a real person who did just that. Joy Berg recently passed away in the last year. I knew Joy from my time in Rapids, and she just really, she was one of the spunkiest people I've ever met. Smart, so smart and so deeply caring. And she's got a really great story of how she left her gift with the help of a local attorney. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So unfortunately, Mikayla and I didn't have the opportunity to meet Joy Berg, but everything we've been hearing about her and reading about her, just a wonderful woman, and a wonderful woman in so many ways, but also in ways where she was so purposeful with her gift. And how did she want to continue her legacy? So as mentioned, from the Wisconsin Rapids area, got her undergraduate at UW Stevens Point, but worked really closely with her attorney to establish, how do I make a lasting impact and how do I make an impact right away? And so that was what was really great about her gift, because part of that was given through the community foundation through our traditional endowment. And it's, I think Marley said it, it's just what we needed, right? At the right time. And that was really to build that sustainability. She wanted us to be able to rely on that gift for years to come and have access, where another portion of that gift was given directly to us as an organization. And many times when donors or individuals are doing that, they're purposeful because they want it to make an impact right now. They want you as an organization to figure out, hey, you know what's best needed from your organization, while it's in investing into an endowment or your agency fund, or if you have a capital project going on, this is yours to determine how you want to invest in that. And I think that was just a really great, amazing story to hear how she was very purposeful. And she didn't do it with she did it with our organization, but a number of others too. She was really strategic and aligned her values with what organizations she wanted to continue that legacy through. So unfortunately, like I said, I wasn't we weren't able to meet her. Would have loved to do so and to thank her so much for it. But we're just excited for her legacy to continue impacting the youth and families we serve for years to come.
I know she's rolling her eyes somewhere right now, I'll tell you that, which is why we made sure we had permission to talk about Joy, because I'm going to talk about Joy a lot. And if Joy was, she really took us all by surprise. And she'd be very humble on the recognition. But I'll say another piece of Joy. She did not have children. And a lot of her gift was left to organizations that serve children. So children are important to our community, and she's someone who really recognized that. So just to summarize, there was a portion of her legacy that came directly into the Boys and Girls Club endowment that is going to distribute 4% a year to you. And then another portion that went directly to the club. You could have chosen to put a part of that into your agency fund, but you're using that to honor Joy's memory right now. Perfect. Love it. So Mikayla, when you think about working with donors on their legacy plans, what does that look like?
Just having open conversations with them about how they would like to leave a legacy, how they'd like to make an impact in the lives of Portage County youth. One of our donors, who started as a donor 20 years ago, she started giving a gift of $100, and it's grown over the years. And because of some stewardship and thank you calls that we made, we found out that she was going to give a gift from her life insurance policy as a planned gift for us in a few years, or whenever she passes. Hopefully it's not a few years. Please do so. That's horrible.
It feels weird talking about that, let's be honest.
Oh gosh. Okay. Anyway, when she passes, her life insurance policy will give a gift to the Boys and Girls Club. And there's just lots of different ways, and anyone, it doesn't just have to be wealthy individuals, anyone can give a gift of a planned gift to any organization. And it's just having that conversation and being able to be open and honest and see how they would like to give in their legacy.
Yeah, Marley and I talk about this a lot because we spend a lot of time, and it's one of our favorite parts of our job, is talking about end of life plans. And it's not something we get to talk about very much in our world, right? It's not something we're wishing on anyone, but there is something that is just so profound and just to listen to people talk about the things that really matter, the things that they want to make sure are here for the next generation, whether those are their grandchildren or someone else's grandchildren. It is really remarkable when you start thinking about the short time we have here and what that time can give to the future. So I know you touched on this a little bit, Danielle, but can we talk a little bit more about what specifically the endowment, how it benefits your budget and your planning from year to year?
Yeah, happy to do so. When you look at both of our endowments that we have with the Community Foundation, I would say that we're still in the building phase of it. In the sense that we are actively contributing towards our endowment through one gift, and then also building upon it through the Community Foundation. And I think that's something that I have heard of other organizations across the state, specifically Boys and Girls Club, where their goal is in 10 years to establish an endowment that secures that stable, sustainable funding. And that's really the goal that we all have. We are a large organization, we got a ways to go. But I would say that right now it's not a primary source of our annual revenue. We still rely very heavily on our fundraising and our wine and cheese event. And if you haven't gotten your tickets, there's only 60 left, just a little plug. But I would say that we are in that building phase and I think we're going to talk about it a little bit about that. We are at a prime spot in our organization with our donors, with our community, to start engaging in some of those active conversations on planned giving. And so I would say that's primarily what we've been focusing on, is getting our word out. Mikayla's been doing a great job in her resources and social media and pushing. Yeah.
Really, I mean, beautiful information. Yeah.
So do you want to speak to that a little bit, what you've done?
Sure. So each month we highlight those who have decided to leave the Boys and Girls Club in their will in our Great Futures Gazette. But a big spot that we've done a lot of work to be able to educate people on the different ways that they can give is on our website. So we have a planned giving page on our website that lists all the different ways, whether it's through life insurance, bequests, annuities, all those different things, all those different avenues. We have that listed on our website. We are not experts in that area. So if there are people who are interested in giving, we would tell them to get in contact with Community Foundation or a financial planner, a lawyer, someone who can help walk them through that process, but just to have that open conversation of how they want to leave their legacy. We can have the conversation of how they want to do that with the club, but they need to figure that out on how they want to do that financially.
Great, and we're gonna get into that in just a few minutes, but yes, it is you do such a great job with that. And, that is one of the things too, that I would say from the Community Foundation, when you think about, when you're talking about building, you're in the building phase, that can sometimes be a little confusing for folks. Like, you're not required, when you have a fund at the foundation, an organizational endowment, you're actually not required to take the distribution as long as we can document why. Right. And, building is a reason. Right. Yep. And so where other foundations, they do have a payout kind of strategy that you have to maintain for the IRS. There's a little bit more flexibility, and we do all that back end for you, which is fun. We think it's fun. Okay, so now I want to talk about something also that I find very fun and a little on the wonky side, as I've been reminded by some friends. But we are in the process of working with our colleagues around the state on releasing a transfer of wealth study for the state of Wisconsin. And I'm just going to give you a couple little snippets of what is currently happening in Portage County. So in Portage County, our current household net worth is $39.1 billion. And over the next year alone, an estimated $1.5 billion will transfer between generations. This is right here in our community, right? Like, when Danielle and I were talking last week, and she was asking me if I thought the money was here for the number of things that just mean so much to people in Portage County. I'm like, yes, I do. It's just a matter of inspiring people to think, oh, that's me too, right? And so that's the kind of work that we are super excited to gear up to do together. But Danielle, what are your thoughts on those numbers?
One, I think we can all just say, wow. let's just take a breath and say, wow. And I know Jenny's been talking about this numbers and getting this data, so I'm excited to see it come to light, first of all. But I think it's a really historic moment for us to reflect that there is this much in the community, and we're so thankful for it. It tells me that our community has the capacity and the commitment level to invest in organizations that really make a difference. It means that we have the resources right here in our community to make our organizations sustainable. I think that really the fundraising grant landscape that we've been seeing is only going to get harder. And I think when recognizing that these numbers that Jenny just shared with us are in front of us, it's really recognizing, as I mentioned before, it's the right moment for organizations to have intentional conversations with their donors because of that transfer of wealth over the next 10 years. And we also recognize, and there's been talk, is that every generation gives in different capacities and in different ways. And so depending upon how that next generation is going to give back or be philanthropic, we also need to be strategic in having those more intentional conversations on how do we want the legacy to give on or to make it sustainable, make it stable, so our future families and children don't have to worry about what are we going to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's also such a great reminder that it's all of us. It's families at every income level, right? It's not, there isn't just one person out there who's going to transfer this amount of money, right? It's like the community as a whole, every family, no matter what, is part of this data. And Mikayla, I'm just curious how that shapes how you think about working with donors.
Yeah, I think we've seen it with some of our donors, and it's something we've been really intentional about doing over the last few years. Is we have a lot of people who have been really invested in the Boys and Girls Club over the last 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. How do we continue to engage that next generation of donors as well? Or there's a lot of our next generation of donors who are attending our events, but maybe haven't become an annual campaign donor, or haven't got on the track of other ways of giving to the organization. I think it's just all of those different conversations, whether it's from having planned giving conversations or being intentional with event donors.
Sure.
How do we transition them to that next phase of giving?
Yeah, yeah. It is. It's all connected for us, right? Helping other people see those connections. Well, I just want to pause here and see if there are any questions in the audience. All right, well, we're going to invite Marley up now. Marley's going to come up and we're going to talk a little bit more about how the Community Foundation's role actually works. So I'm going to put Marley a little bit on the spot here, but she's prepared. She can handle it. She can handle it. So Marley, especially given the Boys and Girls Club, I mean, they're one of our more established endowments. They've got a clear strategy that their board is very much behind. What happens when someone calls us about the Boys and Girls Club endowment?
That's a fun question. So there's a few different angles that we take. So the first one is I probably will have a phone call with Mikayla over here to understand what is going on at the Boys and Girls Club right now. So a level of engagement that the Community Foundation will always offer donors is to be that liaison and be able to have those really honest conversations with the Boys and Girls Club and understand what's going on, what are your needs, what are your long-term needs. What does that look like? And then we do all of the facilitating on the behalf of the Boys and Girls Club. So we do have the resources and the expertise for whatever sort of estate planned gifts make sense to donors, but also living right now gifts, gifts of appreciated stock, of real estate, things right now that might make sense to a donor in their life to be able to make a difference for the Boys and Girls Club Endowment Fund.
Awesome. Great. So now we're going to flip that scenario. And let's say, Mikayla, you have a donor that's coming to you specifically around wanting to support the endowment. How does that relationship work with the Community Foundation?
Oh, sorry. It's awkward.
I think very similarly, just kind of flipped, what kind of things do the donors want to support? We can figure that out and be very specific and intentional about the ways that we are honoring their gift. But then reaching out to Marley and just saying, what are next steps? Maybe letting that donor know, hey, either get in contact with Community Foundation, financial planner, lawyer, to figure out how you're going to make that happen. But we can be very intentional about how we honor their donation though.
Right.
Oh, can I tell a story?
Oh, please.
Okay, I have a story of there's a great donor and his name is Don. And he came to the foundation a few years ago after his wife passed away. And his wife was so intentional about making sure literacy made sense to youth in our community and reading at the local libraries. And it was very important for him to honor her legacy and what that looked like. And so I went on a quest for Don to find the right fit to create a fund that supported the youth legacy or youth literacy in our community. And it just so happened that the Boys and Girls Club has a summer literacy program that Don put both him and his wife's name on. And every year that gift goes to support whatever literacy needs that you
Mhm.
you have every summer. And that is a great example of a gift that Don was able to make during his lifetime, and then also consider into his estate plans to make sure that the legacy of him and his wife was carried on for generations of literacy needs in our community.
I just want to speak to that because I loved, because you brought him into the club. And we were open with the kids, and Marley brought Don in to see how his wife and his legacy was to live on, and the emotion in his eyes of recognizing while his wife couldn't be there,
Mhm.
but recognizing that she's continuing to live on through the programming was just a really sweet moment. And we were it's like, well, don't do it. We're not gonna go there. It was amazing. And I loved that he was having those conversations with you so he could be intentional and see his wife's legacy continuing through the kids and future generations.
Yeah, that's such a great story. And I hope that for the audience, it's giving you a sense of just the creativity. There is no one size fits all. And no matter what a donor, and oftentimes donors will come to whoever and have just an inkling of an idea or something that they absolutely don't want to do, right? Like the idea that some donors don't want money, like this idea of in perpetuity is just too much, right? Well, good news, we have a solution that actually provides Boys and Girls Club more flexibility. And so there's just, and then there's others that really do want in perpetuity, and the idea of just being inspired by things that we'll never know, right? And never touch. So it's very inspiring. Okay, I'm gonna pause again. I don't want to miss any questions. All right, well, how about to wrap us up? What would be some of your final thoughts? And we'll just go on down the row here.
Just on endowment.
Well, whatever you want. What do you want to talk about, Danielle?
Clearly, we'll focus on the community foundation and endowment. I just didn't know there was specific.
Oh, no.
This is what you get on a Monday.
Yeah, it's so nice though.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think, I had the honor of participating in one of these Voices of Impact in early fall with a couple of my counterparts in the community. And one of the questions I remember, I believe it was Ricky Harry asked is, when should you start an endowment?
Yeah.
And I thought it was such a really purposeful question, because I think a lot of it is what you're hearing is, oh, you start it when you're kind of dying, or it's, like that's what's in our heads, which I feel bad saying, but it's truthfully not. It's just like Don, a great example is start having those conversations early. And I think as an organization, as a nonprofit organization, it's important to start it so other donors with donor advised funds can see that you are an opportunity for that long lasting generation. And I would say that a lot of great supporters of the club have come through the community foundation because of that. And so when is the great time to start an endowment? I would say anytime that you have the opportunity to start having some of those really great conversations with your top supporters is key.
Yeah, I think I had some of the same thoughts of just, you don't have to wait, every gift matters. And to be able to help a donor be able to leave their legacy and see their gift live on through our children and our youth in our community is just such a wonderful gift that we have as well. So yeah, every gift matters.
Every gift matters.
Okay, I got to go last, so I got to think the longest. I really think that we're in this together. Like, that's what I feel like when we talk about the Boys and Girls Club endowment funds and agency funds, and talking back and forth and having communications on behalf of donors, that whether it makes sense for a donor to give to an endowment fund and support the Boys and Girls Club long term, or if it makes sense for a gift right now to support the Boys and Girls Club. And Danielle talking about how important those immediate gifts are, and not every gift is meant for an endowment fund, and not every gift is meant for right now. And just being in it together to make sure that these services are here for the long term, and here successful right now, right? Like that's important. What happens this year and the gifts that come in directly to their organization matter. So we have the same goal in supporting you for the long term.
I love that, Marley. We're in this together. I mean, I really want to emphasize that, right? The Community Foundation should never be seen as a competitor to other nonprofits, right? We are here as a tool to help you build a certain piece of your financial picture. And that really is, we take a lot of pride in knowing you, knowing the organizations in our community, being able to share and make connections for donors. And find the right fit that is going to match. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming up, Marley. She runs. I think we need to get her up here more often. Here we go. I want to just close by again thanking Danielle and Mikayla for joining us, but also giving you a taste of what's coming next month. So one of the pieces of work that we also do at the Community Foundation is special project funds. So when an organization has a capital project, and this one we're super excited about. Well, we're excited about all of them, but this is the Rochelle Fairgrounds. Think about all of your years going to the Portage County Fair and seeing the cheese curd stand kind of fall apart. Well, good news. They are building a new incredible facility that just gives me goosebumps to think is going to be right here in Portage County. I'm not going to tell you more than that because next month, Ryan Wanta, who has designed the building, Deb Amarek, and Jim Radford are going to be here to tell us all about it, to walk us through the footprint, to tell us about how they're going to get it done and open before fair, because this is the 100th anniversary of this year, the 100th anniversary. So it's a little bit of a shorter timeline than most, but it is remarkable. So I hope you join us next month. And then again, thank you to our sponsors and to everyone who makes the Community Lunch Hour Voices of Impact possible.
That's what it's like. Thank you.